So here we have our Salamander's character Kitbash. This is an easy Kitbash. It was done from the Salamanders upgrade sprue applied to the Space Wolves Haldor Icepelt, I think his name is, the Space Wolves Primaris character. Not Ragnar, the other one. First thing to note is I did this cloak twice. First time I really did not like it. I was trying a method, it didn't work. I saw this other method on a Reddit thread and that's what I've done. I need to remember to put a link to it in the description because it is an awesome way to do it. So yeah, this is him. Easy conversion, Kitbash, whatever you want. And I haven't decided on whether or not to put the flames on. So if you like the Goblet of Fire on the backpack, let me know. If you think it needs, converted or modified so that the flames look a bit more direction-y. I think they don't show the motion. So here's the basis for this conversion, Kitbash, whatever we want to call it. We're going to take the Haldor Icepelt model and we're going to add Salamander's bits to it. So obviously what we're going to have to do is fix the fur on his crotch and fix the fur on the cape. So we'll cut the little tail off, cut the feet off, file it all down, and then we're going to add some green stuff probably to the middle bit just to, to fill that shape out, fill the space out. Then we're going to try to make a salamander cape. I'm going to have a technique for that, but we'll get into that later. So we're not going to use the axe, we're going to use the hammer, we're not going to use the bolter, we're going to use the flamer pistol. Also on his belt there's a little skull of a dog or wolf or whatever, well, wolf, space dogs, yeah. We're going to get rid of that and we're going to replace it with the little hammer from the Salamander's upgrade sprue. Now something else as well is we're going to need another shoulder pad from an intercessor kit because the shoulder pad for the bolter gun is attached to the arm here. So what I'm going to look at doing is I've got one shoulder pad with the little bullet. I'm going to use that one, but I'm also going to try to convert down this one with this is the Sergeant shoulder pad from an Aggressor kit. I'm going to have a look, see how that looks on it. I'm going to take the flange or whatever we're going to call that. I'm going to take that off it, and then we will try to file it all down and get it looking neat, and we'll see how that looks. I'm not going to commit to either one of these yet, but it'll be one or the other probably. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, for the shoulder pad for the Sergeant we're going to use is the Sergeant shoulder pad, obviously. So this guy is going to be a Intercessor Sergeant. You could use him as Adrax Agatoni at a pinch, but I don't know why you'd bother. But anyway, we're going to start by building as much of the model as we can. But first, before we even do that, we're going to trim off the wolf and the fur and the cape. We're just going to file those down, which is why I've got a file in my hand. I don't think you need to watch me do that. I'll basically trim these down and show you where we get to when we're done, and then we'll have a look at the next stage. So I'll come back after I've filed those parts down. Oh, one more thing. Just as a point of honesty, I am not using this Salamander's upgrade sprue. I'm going to be using this one that's already had the Aggressor shoulder pads cut out of it, just because there's no point having two partial sprues when you can have one full sprue. So that's what we're doing. I'll be back. There you can see roughly, I haven't glued this yet, so that's how far the cloak's going to be. I think once I've filled that gap it's going to look okay. I haven't glued them together yet, which is why I'm holding him like this, but if I just turn him around a bit more, I want to be able to, so I think that'll work quite nicely. So I can't really glue him up. Yeah, I've glued the front onto the torso just to make it a bit easier to handle, but I'm going to green stuff this now. So just to fill the gap, tiny little bit, and then more green stuff tomorrow to do, once it's dried, to do the actual scales. So that's what we're doing. Alright, so as usual I've cut a blob of green stuff and mixed it, and it's far too big. I literally need maybe a quarter of this. So I'm just going to get it a bit wet and spread it out. And it always sticks to my fingers. So what we're going to do is literally just squish it on, because we can file it down once we're done. See? We don't really care what it looks like now, because we can fix it later. This is basically your green stuff equivalent of a base coat almost. I mean, obviously the better you can get it now, the easier it's going to be to fix. So don't worry too much, but by the same token, don't be too sloppy. Generally for filling gaps, I prefer milliput, because you can get it wet and then run your hand over it and then, you know, almost smooth it down. Basically dipping your finger in the water and then pulling it, which doesn't work as well with green stuff, but it does work. So let's make sure we get by working with it wet, it does make it a bit easier. So now I've got all this green stuff to waste, but hopefully you can sort of see that we're just there. So tiniest little bit, and I'm just going to stick that in there and work it in just to get as good as I can. Just remember to keep your finger nice and wet, because you don't want to leave fingerprints on it. Never done that in any green stuff, giggity. So there. You can see how easy that is. So all I'm going to do now is let that dry. Okay, there we have the results of the green stuff gap filling. I'm going to file this down a bit. I haven't filed it down yet, so just to give you a rough idea of what it's going to look like. Now, don't forget that we're going to add another layer of green stuff to do the salamander scales. So this is just the preliminary green stuff, so it doesn't have to be too neat and tidy. So I'll just file this down and get the green stuff on it and then come back. Now, one thing you probably want to do when you're doing a cloak is you want to make sure that the backpack can sit where it's supposed to sit. Nice and flush, nice and round. So that is, there is our cloak. So I'm ready to start my scales now. So I'm going to take my little scaly daily. I'm going to start working it down the middle. And then beside that, so there you go. Oops. Nope, room for one more. So there, and I think maybe one up here. Oops. So yeah, putting a little drop of super glue on the tip before you do the drilling works quite well to hold it together. So, I'm going to let that dry now. Now I'm actually going to put the rest of them together, I think, and then we'll see. Now, if you do make a bit of a mistake, like you can see here, the green stuff is slightly blocking his leg, then because it's only 24 hours old, we should, yeah, it cuts very well with a knife. Now be careful, you want to overcut, but yeah, it cuts reasonably well with a knife. So still a bit more to do, but I'll fine tune that. But yeah, so there's a little tip. Here we go with the results of our conversion so far. I'm not 100% happy with the cape. It'll do the job, like, that's all we really want for now. So what we're going to do now is trim off the arm stubs, so we can have a look to see how the guns look when we stick them on with blue tack. So I'll trim those off and be right back, and probably blue tack on some guns. You can see we're coming together. Yeah. So now you can see we're coming together. We've got our cloak, we've got our flamer, got our thunder hammer, shoulder pad. Well, we've got one shoulder pad. I'm about to do the other shoulder pad, so I'm going to take this Aggressor Sergeant shoulder pad and trim off the flange and see how that looks. So that's it, roughly lopped off with cutters. It needs filed down a bit. Alright. As it turns out, the Gravis shoulder pads don't sit well on it, so that was a good idea, it just didn't work. If you have another fancy officer shoulder pad from somewhere else, you could throw it on them, but I don't, so we're just doing this. So that's what he looks like put together with the helmet. Now I did one thing, I stripped off the back of the cloak, just trimmed it off with a knife relatively quickly. The backpack's not glued on, and obviously the torch goblet of fire thing isn't glued on either. You can see the blue tack sticking out, but the arms are glued on and the shoulder pads are glued on. The head, again, not glued on. So I'm going to have another go at doing the cloak because I didn't like what I had, so I'm just going to file it down a bit more, and then we're going to try another couple of, well, I'm going to play with some green stuff techniques first so I don't waste too much time or energy or green stuff. So once I find a technique that works, I'll do it on the cloak and I'll show you guys. So here we are with our nearly final model. I redid the cloak. I didn't like the cloak. I found an online guide on a Reddit thread. If you've seen the Salamanders 40k subreddit, there's a guy in there who posts some amazing stuff, much better than I can do. And one of the things he has is a guide on Salamander scale stuff. So I sort of followed that one, and I've ended up with this. So hopefully you can see there. It's not glued on. Backpack's not glued on. That flame isn't glued on. His head's not glued on, but everything else is. And you can see there what we've got. So I'm fairly pleased with this. I think it'll paint up quite nicely. If you've made it this far, thanks very much for watching. There's another couple of videos there you can click on. You can click on the subscribe button if you want to. Like the video if you want to. Stick a comment down if you've anything to say. And in the meantime, happy wargaming. And I'll see you next time.